And in another motif of the sunnah, which is more than one hadith, at least 4 or 5 hadith, we learn that even struggling in the way of Allah, even participating in a legitimate jihad. These days the word jihad makes people scared. We call it the J word. We're not supposed to say the word jihad, right? Fact of the matter is, we need to overcome this trepidation and this hesitation. And we need to say very clearly that jihad is a concept of our religion. And it is mentioned in the Quran in hundreds of verses, and in the hadith in dozens of times, and it is mentioned in a noble manner. There's nothing wrong with the concept of jihad. What is wrong is how certain Muslims have misunderstood it. The concept of jihad remains noble. The concept of jihad remains a noble striving for the sake of Allah. Jihad means you strive for the sake of Allah. It doesn't mean you go kill innocent people. It doesn't mean you go bomb civilians. It doesn't mean you misinterpret your religion of Islam and you do that which damages your own people more than it damages others. But the concept of jihad is a noble one, and we should not be ashamed, and we should not be shy from using this word. We need to reclaim the word with dignity and honor as we explain to others, to non-Muslims, the reality of this word. What those people are doing is not jihad. But there are aspects of jihad, and there's a concept of jihad that is a part of my tradition. And here I want to talk about this motif that is mentioned in more than one hadith, and that is helping your parents is better than doing a legitimate jihad. Now, this is really relevant, especially in our times when we're facing a little bit of a crisis of certain youngsters, undereducated and overzealous, who think that they will revive the glory of Islam by doing acts of ridiculousness, acts of militancy and violence. They think that if they go overseas and they participate in military expeditions in Somalia, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, they might bring about the days of Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi. For these youngsters amongst us who have been deluded by listening to certain clerics and being brainwashed by certain groups of people, I say in all sincerity to them, open up the Quran and Sunnah and read some basic ayat and ahadith. A man comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A man comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I have come here to go and fight for the sake of Allah, to do jihad for the sake of Allah. So what do you advise me? Where should I go? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, is your mother alive? He said, yes. So he said, فَالْزِمْهَا, go and stick with her, because Jannah is under her feet. Jannah is under her feet. He wants to go for jihad. And this is a legitimate jihad, not the illegitimate type that we find in our times, not by killing innocent people and bombing airplanes and doing things that are utter and sheer stupidity, un-Islamic and downright evil and foolish. Doing a legitimate jihad in this hadith. This man says, I've come to do jihad. What does the Prophet ﷺ say? Is your mother alive? Yes. Go do jihad with her. Struggle in taking care of her. Struggle in maintaining those ties of kinship, the ties of loyalty that your mother deserves. The famous tradition, another tradition, where a man comes, narrated in Musnad Imam Ahmad, a man comes to the Prophet ﷺ and he says, O Messenger of Allah, I have come from a faraway land. In some versions it also says Yemen, faraway land. And I have immigrated to Medina. This is the first time he's seeing the Prophet ﷺ. I have immigrated to Medina in order to be with you and do jihad behind you. And I've even left my parents crying in order to be with you. In other words, he's trying to boast. He's trying to boast to the Prophet ﷺ that I've done so much for the sake of jihad, I even left my mother and father crying. The Prophet ﷺ said, go back to them and make them laugh just like you made them cry. You want to do jihad? What a joke. You've left your parents angry at you? What type of Muslim are you? You want to go do jihad and your parents are crying? You want the pleasure of Allah by angering your parents? You want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by displeasing your parents? Go back to them right now and make them laugh as you had made them cry. This is the real jihad, brothers and sisters. This is what we need to tell our youngsters and our overzealous, undereducated youth. Wallahi, it's easy to log on to a few chat forums. It's easy to talk some grandiose, ultra-romanticized, utopic talks that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But it's very difficult to listen to your mother and father. It's very difficult to sit down there and be a good son and daughter. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very clearly that is the real jihad.